Music. Yeah.
Serp Garage here with the Winchester Model 50. Now check this out. I know these were not that popular. John Browning's designs were much more dominant in the marketplace. But for a seemingly throwaway semi-automatic shotgun from the middle of the 1900s, there really is a lot of research to do to see what was going on during that period. How did Winchester try to cope without John Browning's designs, which isn't really necessarily true because they tried their best to copy John Browning's designs. Why couldn't they use John Browning designs? And let's get into some, I'm going to really, this isn't a bridge story. You could definitely, this is like a, you could take like an 8-hour class in this, but we're just going to throw down some info. I hope everything that I have is accurate. Of course, when you have all this information, you're getting it from a bunch of different places. You're never really 100% sure, but let's cover a little history first. Then we're going to move into the design of this thing because the design of this shotgun is fascinating. So I picked this up at the last, second to last gun show I was at. I got it with the Savage Model 25 that we just recently featured. I got them on the same day. And I thought this was a great deal. There's a nice older gentleman that always has all these cool Winchesters. I got my Model 12 Heavy Duck from him. If there's a video up there on that. This was the tag that was on it. $450 firm. I didn't even argue with him. I gave the guy his $450 because he's a really nice guy, and I like buying stuff from him, and I thought this was a great deal. So I kind of feel like he already gives me his lowest price, which is kind of nice when I deal with him because I don't have to sit there and bargain. I just kind of know what he wants, and that's that. So it's kind of refreshing. So that's how I ended up with it, and then I know it's one of these designs that Winchester had to come up with to try to compete with the semi-automatics from other companies, and they weren't successful. I mean, everybody kind of knows that story, that why from 1900 all the way into the 60s when they started coming up with gas-operated shotguns, why there was a problem with Winchester competing. So let's just start at the beginning here, all right? And I'm going to burn through this, so don't worry. If you just want to get right into this shotgun, don't worry. It's coming soon. Let me just say that Oliver Fisher Winchester in 1866 started the Winchester Company. He had been dabbling with guns and with partners for a long time, but officially Winchester started in 1866. He died in 1880, and his son, who would have inherited the company, died in 1881, right after him. So there was kind of like, the company's kind of up in the air. This guy, W. Converse, I think is his name, he was his brother-in-law. He was O.F. Winchester's brother-in-law. And Thomas Gray Bennett, T.G. Bennett, who was his son-in-law, took over the company. So you can see right away there probably wasn't anybody to take over the company but his daughter. And his daughter, I guess back in the 1880s or whatever, like a woman couldn't run a company like that. I'm assuming, I don't mean to be chauvinist, but I'm pretty sure that's why his brother-in-law, her husband and son, I'm confused. Anyway, in 1890, this T.G. Bennett guy kind of was running everything in the company. He went from just running the the new designs and stuff like that into just kind of running everything. So he kind of moved up there and took over in 1890. And what was going on in 1888 and things like that. Well, let's just get this off the table for a second. in 1885, T.J. Bennett, and this guy T.G. Bennett, sorry, he was known for making the best and worst decisions for Winchester. You hear that expression? I've heard it before. And the best decision was to take a look at this rifle by some unknown guy named John Browning and to buy this design for the 1885. And he worked out a deal with John Browning where he had something called first refusal. So he's like, I'm going to work with you. I'm going to buy, I love your designs. So this was one. The 1885 was the first. Then, of course, we had what the hell's this thing called again? The 1886. My head's spinning. The 1886. I mean, come on. This is a legendary lever action design here. How successful was that? We had the 1897 shotgun. Okay. Incredibly successful. And T.G. Bennett also had what's called first refusal, which means they had a policy that before Browning could bring a gun to any other company, Winchester had to have first dibs on it. So Winchester, this T.G. Bennett was actually very smart. They couldn't produce every single design that Browning brought forward because even some of them would compete with themselves. You know what I mean? It's like it was just too much for a company. They have to just like only put out a certain amount of product. They couldn't just manufacture all of these designs. He was such a prolific designer that they were just overwhelmed with all of these new designs that he was coming up with. So they would buy them only because they didn't want these designs to go to other companies. So they would just buy the rights to the design. And that's how it always was. Browning would design a design. He would make a couple of like handmade ones, bring them, show them. The designers at Winchester would copy everything, know how it's made. They would pay Browning for the design. And that's it. That's how that went for the longest time, right? Until Browning came up with this guy. When Browning came with this guy, the automatic shotgun, the SL, the self-loading shotgun, using that long recoil design. I'm grabbing the barrel here and pushing. Can I even move it? See how the barrel here moves back? That was Browning's design. This was innovative. I have videos on all of these rifles I've just showed you, by the way, if you want to delve into anyone, even this one, where I deal with it specifically. But this guy was special because nobody could figure out how to consistently auto-load shotgun shells back then. They weren't as consistent as they are now. The shells, they were like all over the place. They were paper, they swelled, the powder charges were all different. They were very difficult to have a shotgun that could fire everything. And Browning figured out how to do it. And he brought this, the way everything normally happens, he brought this to Winchester. There's this guy at Winchester, what the hell is his name? T.C. Johnson, yes. I just took a look at the page. So T.C. Johnson was a designer there and a guy that worked at Winchester. He would sit down with Browning. Browning was good at designs, but he really wasn't good at the business part of it, protecting his designs. And it's like Winchester would sit down and look at every little idiosyncrasy. You know, back then, you didn't need a bolt handle. They were all like lever action, pump action, whatever. You didn't need to control the bolt. You either used a pump to control the bolt or a lever or whatever, about bolt action, shotguns. So this, to be able to like semi-automatic, you had to have control of the bolt. You had to put a handle here. He patented that. The button, he had patented that. He patented the rings, the friction rings that were in here. The this, the that, everything. They would be very protective. Winchester was very good about protecting their designs so nobody could copy them. Well, they did all of that for Browning. Browning, the patents go to the designer, after all, not to Winchester, to the designer. So they got all those patents for Browning for this shotgun. And then you could read about it. There's a tons of story. I'm not going to get too into it. But basically what happened was Browning was like, well, listen, I want to do things a little different right now. This is a huge design. I could tell that this is going to be big. This is one of my big. It's a self-loading shotgun. It's going to be huge. And I don't want to just, get paid once for the rights. I kind of want to have some royalties for the manufacturing. You know what I mean? So basically, I want a piece of each one of these that's sold. I want royalties, And now here's the worst decision that T.G. Bennett ever made is he said absolutely not, and Browning scooped this up and left. And he had some issues where he took it to Winchester, to Remington. Remington was interested, but the head of Remington that was interested and wanted to pay him died of a heart attack. But Browning, he had dealt with Fabrique Nationale over in Belgium, so he had some friends over there. He brought it over there. And they wound up honoring his deal for having having royalties and everything. And for him, life went on. And he was still the best gun designer out there and had fun doing it. But Winchester got left behind a little bit. Now, Winchester, they fumbled around for a bit. Now, here, I like this book. I'm going to show you. I'm going to bring out a book right now. Actually, let me get this off the table again. I'm going to bring out a book. This is a huge history lesson with this Model 50, and it's just the only way to do it right. So here's the last of Browning's designs back here. Here's the 1897 that I just showed you. I have to give credit for these books, by the way. This is by Watrous. History of Winchester Firearms, 66 to 75. I love this book. So yeah, 1897. This might have been one of the last things that you're going to see from John Browning. Let me move into these. He has an 1901 repeating shotgun, his lever action design. I'm pretty sure this was Browning's. And then that's just about it. When we move into this 1902, they got some kind of cannon here. Let me zoom back a little bit maybe so I get the whole book in here. Then there's the 03 with this proprietary cartridge. This was where T.C. Johnson steps in, starts designing here, because this is where they cut ties with Browning here. There's a thumb trigger model here. T.G. Bennett goes on as the patent for the trigger mechanism, that you don't use a conventional trigger, you're using your thumb. Yeah. That worked out real good, Mr. Bennett. That really carried on into the future. Great idea. And then, look, single shot rifle. Here's the 05 self-loader. Here's the 06 repeating rifle. Here's what they did. They took the 1890, which I should have brought that out too and showed you. That was one of Browning's designs in the 1890s. That was great for Winchester. They dominated the small takedown 22 pump action market. They re-released it with a round barrel and a couple of other things, a couple of other little changes, as if it was something new. They went back to Browning's designs that they owned actually, after fumbling around in here with this 03 and this 05, whatever. So then, of course, there's the 07, which somebody on the channel here is begging me to get one of these things. But proprietary cartridge, again, it's 351 Winchester self-loading cartridge. No thanks, I don't even want to be messing with that. And then the 1910, what was that, the 401? Is there another proprietary caliber? Yeah, 401 Winchester self-loading. All right, so then here, after all that, then they go, all right, we're going to enter the self-loading shotgun market with the 1911. Dismal failure. We'll get into this another time, but this was an absolute failure. They called this thing the Widowmaker, if you know about it, whatever. Failure. And then the 1912 T.C. Johnson. T.C. Johnson was not a bad gun designer, don't get me wrong. I mean, the Model 12 is one of the greatest shotguns there is. That was T.C. Johnson's, but so they're doing well with other types of shotguns, but that autoloader failed. Then we got World War One, so they were into making 1917s and the Browning light machine gun. But then here, repeating rifle. After World War One, here we're into sporting rifles, bolt action rifles, single shot shotgun, Model 36, Model 41, single shot shotgun, 38, Model 53 repeating rifle, Model 55 repeating rifle, 54 bolt action rifle, 56 bolt action rifle. This is all chronological here, what they're coming out with. The Model 57 bolt action rifle, Model 58 rimfire rifle, 59 rimfire, Model 21 double barrel shotgun. Not attempting the semi-automatic, the self-loading shotgun again. Model 60 rimfire, 62 repeating rifle is pump action. Again, this is another 1890 bite right here. I keep going back to those Browning designs as much as they can. The Model 61, which is this is a great 22. I got a video of that up there. This is an awesome one. Who designed this one? Was this T.C. Johnson? I'm looking. I don't see it, but I think it was. I think it was him. He was great. He really was a great weapons designer. Don't get me wrong, but they could not get around these Browning patents. Is the biggest problem. Was the worst thing. But eventually, these patents expired. So we got here 63 repeating rifle This is an automatic self-loading rifle. Oh, this is the 63. So this is basically the 1903 22-1 rifle. Model 64, 65 repeating rifle. Model 42 repeating shotgun, pump action again. Could you imagine all these rifles you're coming through? 71 lever action rifle. Model 37 shotgun, another single shot. Model 38 shotgun, 70 bolt action rifle. They just did not, man. Could you imagine how many of these semi-autos were sold by other companies at this point? That they're getting all the way up into the 40s here. Model 72 repeating rifle, 75 bolt action rifle, just about up to the 40s. Double barrel shotguns, okay? And then bang, here. We make it here to the Model 40. Now, by now, patents have expired. So you can have a bolt handle, and you can have, so they start to be able to mess with some of the things that Browning had patented. But bang, another failure. This thing came out in like 40 and was discontinued in 41, if you could believe it. But by then, Pearl Harbor, and we're into World War II. So now Winchester's worried about making M1 Grands and M1 carbines. And now here is where we are introduced to David Marshall Williams, whose moniker Carbine Williams might be familiar to you. He designed some kind of sear mechanism back in like the 30s, right? Like the mid 30s, the late 30s. That I'm showing you here, this is his patent up here now. And then Winchester came and said, hey, wait a minute, that we have a patent. You're infringing on our patent. This is our patent, and they showed their patent here. And the dates on these papers here, they don't coincide. It shows that one's later, but these patents, sometimes they rewrite them, they reintroduce them, whatever. But the original patent, Winchester did hold from before Williams' patent for this particular sear. So Williams was like, yeah, you're right. So whatever it was used for, he agreed to pay the royalties or whatever it was, but he started working for Winchester. So Winchester might have made a deal and said, listen, we're not going to ask you for royalties for the infringement. Just, come design something for us. You're a good designer. Come work with us. We could work something out. Something like that may have gone on. Because what normally would have been like, him getting sued and them hating each other turned into him actually going into a business relationship with them. Now, the interesting thing about this guy was that he was very smart about a couple of things. He designed and went into helping design the model of the 30 caliber carbine, the M1 carbine, and he helped design that and got really popular with Winchester for that. And when after World War II, he had this thing, it's called a floating chamber. Sorry if I'm floundering here a little bit, running out of steam. Okay, I'm back. This is what this guy had that was special. The Williams floating chamber. He had this thing where I spoke about it with the Model 550-1, my video on that. It's a Remington 22. He had worked in, let's see exactly when that was before he started working with Winchester. They changed that to the 550-1 at some point and changed a little bit of it. But originally, well, basically, when he worked with Remington, he came up with the design for this rifle here, for the floating chamber, where it was a chamber that would allow gases through when the case was small, like for a 22, for a short, to allow a larger surface area for the gases to push against in a blowback. But when the case was longer, like in a long rifle, it would seal off that floating chamber and the blowback would only come from, like, say, where the case was. Not expecting you, if you don't know how this works, it's kind of hard to pick up just from me explaining it just like this, but it really was an ingenious design. And you got to remember that none of these semi-automatics, none of these self-loading rifles were gas-operated yet. They were all blowback. So if you had a tremendous load, like let's say with a shotgun, if you had... Browning's idea was the difference in loads, you had these friction rings where the more push that there was, the tighter these friction rings would grab to make the bolt action consistent. But T.C. Johnson's floating chamber was that the gas regulation like that would happen with a floating chamber that would allow gas to pass through if there was a lot and not allow the gas to pass through if there was a little, so that the blowback would be consistent. That's basically what it was like. So, and Williams also invented the 22 caliber Colt service model Ace pistol, which also had, and that was in the 20s, okay? So he invented that in the 20s, which was his first time messing around with a floating chamber. We'll put some pictures of it up over here. And then when he came out with this Remington rifle, that was very popular. And so he started working in 1938, I believe it was, with Winchester's chief of engineering, Edwin Pugsley. And he was employed by Winchester in July 1st, 39. And they purchased the design of the Grand Replacement Model G30 in 11/30/38. And there was some patents from John Browning's son, J.E. Browning, who was he was hired by Winchester in March of 39 and died in May of 39. So there were some patents from John Browning's son that Winchester had. And this Carbine Williams started messing around with that design coupled with his floating chamber. Those two elements put together made this shotgun. So although the 1911 and the 1940, the Model 40 and the Model 1911 both failed, this one failed. But I'm not so 100% sure it had to do with the design because I think World War II came right behind the introduction of it. And already, Winchester was already known as not a semi-automatic shotgun producing company. If you wanted to buy a semi-automatic shotgun, you didn't get it from Winchester. And then, so that would kill sales. And then when the war was over, it didn't take long before gas operations stepped in. And once gas operations stepped in, like to this day, I'm going to put a picture up here. This is like a Winchester shotgun you could get today. They're like the top of the field for like, gas operation and everything like that. But this is back in the day of still blowback. This was like now dated technology. It's kind of like they finally got it right. A war happened, and then they invented something better right after that. So this was a failure for that reason, where the 1911 and the Model 40, they both had that long recoil action with the barrel, and the bolt coming back together like that. And they were trying to copy Browning's design, going around his patents. And that's where the failures came in, I believe. This, Carbine Williams stepped in with some other Browning designs, but not John Browning, his son. I think it was his son. It wasn't his brother, right? No, it was his son. And together invented something really cool. So now let's, I feel like I skipped 10,000 things over here. But let's get into this actual design. I really thought I had all my information together here, but very discombobulated today. But you know what? Sometimes that makes for a good video because then you go out and you do your own research on all of my dead ends here. But I took this thing trap shooting. My first round, I shot a 23. Okay? Then that's like, I hadn't been there in like a year because of, I didn't go this summer at all yet or whatever because just all the restrictions that are going on now. But the place was wide open and it was just like it was before. You would never know anything was different. And so I really loved it, and I'm back. I'm gonna get back into the trap shooting big time now because I love it. And this is gonna turn out to be one of my favorites, man. I shot like a 23, I think, my first round, then a 20, then a 19. It was going downhill, but because I guess just the, you kind of like losing your stamina when you haven't done it in a while, and even just holding a big heavy shotgun like this up in the air. I mean, it is 30-inch barrel, full choke. And let me tell you about these things. These things are machined out of a block of steel. There's no MIM stuff here. There's no cast, nothing. This is all, what do you call it? This is just cut out of a block of steel, all of this. It's all milled. Every piece of it, everything. So when I bought this also, too, I know I'm going to forget, so I'm just going to throw it in here now. I know it's just kind of in the middle of nowhere. It came with a 30-inch full, and it also came with this, gotta clean this up. It came with this 28-inch modified barrel, which is nice. So I guess this is skeet, I guess. Somebody told me that's more like a skeet barrel. I don't really shoot that. I like the trap. But just if anybody thought $450 was expensive, it did come with two barrels, and it's not like a barrel for a Model 50 that's just laying around. You know what I mean? And but let me tell you, I gotta show you the coolest thing about this now. So let's take here. We could take a closer look at it. I want to show you how awesome. Look at this tiger striping on the buttstock. It's a plastic butt plate. Everything on here is nice. It's a scratch here and a scratch there, but it's like it's all there. Nobody abused this thing. The wood is beautiful. Let's get a little close up over here on the writing. You guys like to see that? Full choke. Model 50 Winchester. So yeah, we're gonna get in there. let's check it out. What was Carbine Williams up to with this floating chamber thing? Let me show you. So the barrel is an interrupted thread. You just do like a 90-degree turn and it comes right out. But it's a little odd because you're like, look at that. Wow, that's a huge hole there. What is going on? And what is this? Check this out. This is the floating chamber. How wild is that? I keep it wet. Now this would be fragile and prone to breaking. Look at how there's like a forcing cone here that looks like a bullet, right? It looks like a centerfire rifle cartridge. And that fits in here to the shape inside that perfectly matches it. And the barrel stays still, and now this recoils with the bolt, but only slightly. An amazing design. It makes for a very fast, incredibly fast action. It felt like to me. I mean, I guess that's the feel, at least. It feels sharp like that. And only a milled piece of steel like this would be strong enough to withstand what it's being asked to do here. And then this just fits right in here. Never really had a problem with it. Well, there it is. It's in there. See how it retracts? That's the amount it moves right there. And you can see how the bolt handle moves like this here without even moving the bolt yet. So this travels back together for a certain amount. That this is a design to start to really start doing a lot of research into the exact function here. See, the bolt stays slightly charged when you put the barrel in all the way. So it takes up a little bit of spring force there. And that floating chamber just sits inside there and works in conjunction with the bolt. It operated flawlessly. I shot 100 shots, so I shot 4 rounds with it, and not one complaint, nothing, no issues at all. It's a very, very strong ejection, very powerful ejection. It was literally shooting the spent shotgun shell 3 stations over. I had to be like on the end. Luckily, I was only shooting with 2 guys, and I had to be all the way on the end. Because I was really afraid. It's like somebody was saying, don't worry, it doesn't bother me. It's like, yeah, if it would bother you if it hit you in the head at that speed. Because they were really flying. It has this really cool, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, this really cool ejector. You see it in there? It's like a pin. This is why it's so powerful. Ejection. Let me, I have to hold a light here for you to see. Let me see if you can see it. It's right down in there, and it sticks out at like 3 o'clock there. Is this too bright? You know, I never did the flashlight thing, and that's probably the reason why. I think you'll be able to see it just fine if I just tilt it, but I can't have the bolt all the way back. So you'll see as it comes back that I think the extractor's in the way. Well, struggling with that. Let's see. A lot of camera issues lately. I need to upgrade this channel. but it's right there. See it sticking out right there? So it comes out at like 3 o'clock, and it's just sticks through the face of the bolt. So see when the bolt, there you go, now you can see it. So when the bolt's coming back, bang, see how that just comes right through like that? And that obviously, it fulcrums it off the extractor here. When that ejector hits it, it puts a huge dent in the face of the crown, in the brass, you know. So reloaders might not like that because of that dent it puts in there. But man, there is no stovepiping or anything like that going on here. This thing is like an animal. So I don't remember what else we had. Can we look at some literature? Let's look back at some literature. There's not really much to see just looking at it. Well, here I could run a snap cap through it. I don't know how exciting that would be, but because it's really, you have to actually press the like the bolt release to get the loading gate open, which is unusual. Normally you don't have to do that. You would be able to just slap them right in, but you press, go in here, it sits behind. You know, you've seen this Winchester look before, and boom, and there's that ejection. It's flawless working. It really is. It's very, very strong too. Just the steel, just the construction of it is very, very strong. It is everything that the 1911 and the 1940 were not. Not that those are terrible shotguns either. I don't know. You know what I mean? Just might even dabble around and play around and look into those. But for now, this guy is not them. That's all I'm saying. It's not. And it is its own unique thing that Winchester finally made it, I think. And then it all fell apart for them because of factors out of their control. So what else do we got here? Let's see. We got, here's the Model 11 in my Winchester book. This is the Mattis book, by the way. Let's back up a little bit. This is the Winchester book by Mattis, which is signed, by the way. That's right. Good friend of mine. And here's the 1911. An early attempt by Winchester to produce the automatic shotgun the public wanted. Great difficulty was experienced in developing a shotgun which could be made by Winchester but would not infringe on Browning's patents. Browning's patents and patent application and specifications had been written by Winchester's attorneys, and they had written them so well that it was difficult to produce any automatic shotgun without infringing on the Browning patent. The Model 11, especially in early issues, proved unsatisfactory with high-power smokeless loads. Later modification did not help, and one writer of the period wrote, "I always was relieved to have my Model 11 jam. At least then it didn't kick the hell out of me." So, yeah, interesting. And then here, of course, is the Model 40. Introduced in 1940. Began in 39 using the same basic principles as its predecessor, the Model 11. To control recoil, a buffer proved insufficient provided sufficient friction to slow down the rearward moving barrel. This system was far from satisfactory, and the Model 40 was discontinued in 41 when production reached somewhat less than 12,000 guns. So it was this buffer. They both had buffers. This one and this one had like buffer discs that it just what didn't work. That system did not work. And then I don't even think I have the 1940 in this Winchester book. I think it was too new for that. So we looked at the floating chamber. Let's see, do we get to the Model 50. Do we get to the Model 50? Yeah. Here's the Model 50 right here in the Watrous book. The third Winchester shotgun of the self-loading type was introduced as the Model 50 in 54. The model number 50 was authorized on July 1st, 47 to cover a new design of self-loading shotgun. The first Model 50 was sent to the warehouse April 15th, 54. Model 50 serial number 1001 was shipped May 19th, 1954. The first receiver on that gun, number 101, was scrapped, and a second receiver replaced it. And there it was. And then it was followed by the Model 77, which I think we have a video on. So it's really funny. The one right after this was a rifle we also have a video on. What was after that? I had a video on these. But these are popular. So this is a great book because I like the chronological thing with it. You know, it says what rifle was made right after it. But this 77 seemed like a very new type of 22, but it really isn't. It was only right after this guy. The Model 50. See, and this is the different options you can get with it. Interesting. What else do we got? There's this book. This is kind of like a Winchester catalog, but it's actually marketed as an actual book with an author. But it's just kind of like all the pictures came from Winchester, photographs courtesy of Winchester. This was basically just a Winchester book. And it looks like, you know, it's kind of made like a library book for like public school. And so here is the 75,000th Winchester Model 50 presented to Walter Alston, Outdoorsman of the Year, 1955. Two outstanding Winchester designs. Back then, see, they were touting this as outstanding as soon as it came out. And I agree. I really do think it's an outstanding shotgun. Now, I forgot why I bookmarked these pages. Let's take quick looks. Oh, here, this is nice. Nice exploded diagram here. This is the rifles and shotguns. This is the NRA Guide to Firearms Assembly. So this is nice. It shows disassembly here. Oh, yeah. See, remember, I think I said in the last video, or the video that when I got this at the gun show, that I saw this, and I went to do some research on it. But I saw that. And when I saw that, I don't like missing screws and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't even want to have to go searching around to see if Numrich has that or anybody has that. I was like, I'm going to look up videos on this. I'm not really sure if it's a missing screw. I don't see threads, but I'm not sure what it is. But I'm going to look it up. And I was like, here's how I know whether I'm going to buy this or not. Everything else about it looks good. If that's a missing screw, I'm not buying it. And if I look on Gunbroker and the ones, Model 50s have that, then I'm going to go buy it. I looked up on Gunbroker. 1, 2, they both had just a hole. I walked right up to the guy and threw $4.50 on the table. Because that is used, as you can see right here, it's used to push through, to push out a pin. You can even see there's like a little recess right there. So it's used to push through. I guess you hold the bolt here, and it's used to push that pin out, that hole. So there you go. Very interesting. There's a lot of interesting information in there about it. And of course, there's my Encyclopedia of Modern Firearms by Brownell. And what do we have here? We bookmarked a couple of pages. Let's see what we got here. Oh, look at all the different ones. This is nice. We got the Model 50 field gun. We got the skeet gun, trap gun. Nice. Featherweight, pigeon grade. And then we're into Model 12 down here. So which one would you say this is? It doesn't have ribs on the barrel. It's probably the field gun, right? That's probably what this is. But it's not the featherweight. Because the featherweight probably had a shorter barrel. It's interesting. I have to look into this because it says length of pull 14 inches. So let's see. What's our... bear with me. Get out of the way. Oh my God. 14 inches. So what do we got here? I don't need millimeters. This is length of pull. Where do you go from to come up with that? This looks like it's more like 13. So what is... if that's the featherweight... oh, 14 inches. So here, length of pull, 14 inches. They're both the same. What is it that makes it... oh, it's a 20 gauge. No, it just says for 20 gauge. 7 pounds, 7¾ pounds. 30-inch full choke. 30-inch full choke. What is the difference between the Featherweight field gun and the field gun? I'd have to sit here and actually just compare every single thing. Interesting that I didn't do that for the video, but I didn't see that. I'm going to take a look at that. By the way, there's only 2 shells fit in here. That's it, and 1 in the chamber. So it's like a 2+1 gun. So it's like, I think, like, you know, the hunting was very popular then with these shotguns. It's just kind of like made like just specifically for hunting. So you don't have to worry about having a plug in there. You know what I mean? Oh, wait a minute. We have one more bookmark. What was that for? Oh, it was for a breakdown of it. Brownell's books were always good for parts, like, you know, for ordering parts, so that you got like every little possible piece right there. It's nice. And that's all she wrote, ladies and gentlemen. Man, that was all over the place. There's like a 50-50 chance that this is going to be my Winchester Model 50 video. I don't know if I have the energy to go through all that again. But the bottom line is, we would not be here with this design if it wasn't for John Browning. So isn't that interesting that John Browning's designs stand on their own? You go like, here you go. We wouldn't have this. We wouldn't have this if it wasn't for John Browning. The uniqueness of a shotgun like this, the interesting shit, the fact that you could load a shell in the tube and it automatically ends up here. I mean, how cool is that? Only John Browning could figure out something like that, right? By the same token, if you're not allowed to do what he did, you have to be creative on your own too. And you have to come up with other ways of doing what he did. It's the patent laws. If everyone could just copy the one thing that was good, you would never learn about any other things that were good. And I think T.C. Johnson... I think TC did a pretty good job here. I'm sorry. TC did a great job, but I think Carbine Williams, Mr. Williams here, I think he did a great job. I think he showed that the floating chamber was a viable thing. He made a 45 fire 22 caliber rimfire rounds. And he made a 22 that could fire semi-automatically, shorts, longs, long rifles, and cycle them reliably. And then later on was shown that floating chamber could finally take a Winchester self-loading design and make it work, make it popular, make it function properly. And I just think it was just bad timing that made this not really be as popular as it could have been. They only made, 190,000 of these or something. Where's my info on these? They made 190,000 of them. 196,402 to be exact, which isn't a tremendous amount, considering that Browning's guns sold in the millions. But... I'm telling you right now, this one is viable, and we're going into some crazy stuff now. I went to another gun show after this one, picked up 2 examples. I left one of the shorts. I like the YouTube shorts, by the way. That's kind of cool. I could kind of get into that. Let me, if you like them, let me know. I see them on YouTube all the time, but I figured let me try it and do them at the gun show. And I did one on the way. I said, yeah, I found 2 guns and immediately went over my budget and had to run to the cash machine. But I did it for you. And videos on those 2 examples are on the way. And I already have my fingers in other things too, where we're going to have some other cool stuff coming. So this is going to be an interesting fall. Stick with me. Hang in there. And I'll check you all out soon. Sorry if this video was all over the place, but You know, there really isn't much there really isn't much stuff specifically just on this one shotgun, and it's like, it is uneventful, to be honest with you. There's really nothing crazy about it. I was just about to leave, but I could tell you a couple of other things. Number one, if you completely disassemble this, I forget what they call it, but back in here they have like springs and a rod and an adjusting thing and a pin. It's like, it's complicated what's going on back here with the springs and stuff. And that's where like your own research would come in if you really wanted to delve into what Carbine Williams was doing back here besides this floating chamber. There's a lot going on with this system back here with the springs. And if you disassemble this completely, it loses its timing, and it has to be adjusted. And I'm glad I didn't mess with it. As soon as I got it, all I did was like just clean it up. I didn't even take the bolt out of here. I just took out that floating chamber like I showed you, cleaned all up in here. I think I took the buttstock. Yeah, I took the buttstock off, and I took all the wood off. I just blasted out the mechanism with gun scrubber, blew it out with compressed air, and then re-oiled the whole thing. So you don't necessarily have to disassemble all those parts. Just the gun scrubber, blasting it out with the air, careful with any fragile springs with the air, and then oiling it does just great. And don't disassemble any of this mechanism back here unless you really know what you're doing, because it'll change the function of it like completely. And it is functioning perfectly right now. Like at the trap range, it was great. Didn't feel like the bolt was slamming back too hard, even though they're like 3 dram rounds that I use. And it cycled reliably. And I could see that big locking lug right there, sticking right up dead center through that breech block right there, through that floating chamber. There's that big locking lug. And I inspected it very carefully. No cracks, no nothing. No Remington Model 51 breech block cracking stuff going on here. That floating chamber looks strong. And hopefully I get a lot of years out of this thing, you know. And don't get anything stuck in the magazine tube. So if you have a round that like it's chewed up a little bit around the rim or whatever, don't get it stuck in this tube, because there's an aluminum plug at the top that really isn't meant to be removed. And woo! I had to get in there, and it was not fun. It's something I just want to forget about, so don't even ask. I don't even want to talk about it. It's over. But don't get anything stuck in this tube. It's not as simple as like an 870 where you just like, you know, pop that little metal thing out, spring comes out, and you push something through to get a stuck shell out of there. Nah, it's going to be a real long, bad day. So just a heads up there. Be careful with getting anything, just nice brand new shells in this tube. That's why I'm not even messing with my snap caps with fully loading it, because the snap caps are chewed up. Live and learn. Don't put chewed up snap caps in here. And this chewed up snap caps, by the way, are not realistic snap caps, which got a video coming up with them too, with some new examples. That's coming on the horizon also. And man, an hour's worth of Model 50, and I really hardly showed you anything about how this functions, because I'm really not sure. It's a mystery to me, but it's an awesome shotgun, and the history is great. And I got all these books here, and I never even realized that the Model 40 and the Model 1911 are all in those books, man. Tons of information. I was just so concentrating on the Browning stuff that I didn't even realize, like, the voids that he was creating were actually interesting on how these companies filled them. And even these designs are interesting, you know? It's never ending, this hobby. Cross bolt safety, by the way, right here. And that's that, ladies and gentlemen. That's the Winchester Model 50. And stick with me. I'm coming behind. That should just be a few days. Give me. I'm going to put together some research. It's going to be much more together. Trust me. It's not going to be so discombobulated. I'm going to put together a video for one of these other examples that I got. And you're going to love these. These are weird. These are just some weird, crazy designs. You're going to like this. And see you all later. Take care. Be well.
Yes.